The recording spread through the Academy network within an hour. By evening, every cadet had watched it at least twice. By morning, it had reached the broader military networks that connected the galaxy. Within 3 days, the 8-second fight became the most analyzed combat footage in recent memory. Jiwoo tried to ignore the attention. She went to classes, completed her training, and stuck to her normal routine. But everything had changed. Cadets who had ignored her before now watched her walk by with careful respect. Some nodded greetings. Others kept their distance, uncertain how to approach someone who had just redefined expectations. The other human cadets felt the change too. Daehyun reported that the harassment had stopped completely. Hana received apologies from cadets who had sabotaged her equipment. Minsu found his locker repaired and his missing items returned anonymously. People are scared, Daehyun said one evening. They sat in the common area, studying tactical manuals. They're reassessing what humans can do. Some species are viewing us as potential allies now. Others are viewing us as threats. Which do you think is more dangerous? Jiwoo asked. Both. Fear and respect can both lead to violence if we're not careful. Jiwoo knew he was right. She had seen the security footage of herself fighting the Vexians. Watching from outside, she understood how it looked. Fast, brutal, efficient, almost inhuman in its precision. That was the problem with showing strength. You couldn't control how others interpreted it. The instructors treated her differently now, too. Ralmek called her to his office 3 days after the fight. The old Velkrin warrior gestured for her to sit across from his desk. That was well executed, he said without preamble. You controlled the engagement from the first second. Aggressive close combat, excellent spatial awareness, good use of your physical advantages. Thank you, sir. It was also reckless. You could have been seriously injured. 4 against 1 is never good odds, no matter your capabilities. Jiwoo nodded. She had considered the risks. But sometimes risk was necessary. Ralmek studied her for a moment. Do you know why I approved the match? To see what I could do? Partially, but mostly because this academy needs to understand what Deathworlders bring to galactic military forces. He pulled up data on his screen. Your species has been part of our community for barely 2 decades. Most species still view you as unknowns. Some view you as primitive. Others view you as dangerous curiosities. None of them truly understand what you're capable of. And now they do. Now they're starting to. But understanding creates its own problems. Ralmek turned his screen so Jiwoo could see. It showed analysis reports from various military committees. Some of these committees are recommending increased human integration. They see your potential. Others are recommending restrictions. They see you as security risks. Jiwoo felt cold. Restrictions? Limited deployment. Enhanced monitoring. Segregated units. All in the name of security, of course. His voice carried contempt for the idea. Politicians who have never faced combat making decisions about warriors they don't understand. What can we do about it? You can continue being exactly what you are. Professional, capable, reliable. Eventually, actions speak louder than fears. Ralmek closed the screen. But be aware that you're being watched now. Every human cadet here represents your entire species. Your success or failure affects all humans in galactic service. The weight of that settled on Jiwoo's shoulders. She had known it intellectually before. Now she felt it personally. She left Ralmek's office and found Thexel waiting in the corridor outside. The Vexian had been released from medical the day before. His wrist was healed, though he wore a support brace as a precaution. Can we talk? He asked. Jiwoo nodded and followed him to one of the Academy's observation decks. Through the massive windows, Sanctuary Prime's 3 moons hung in the dark sky. Other cadets occupied the deck, but they gave Thexel and Jiwoo space. The Vexian was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. I was wrong about you, about humans. I let pride blind me to the truth. What truth is that? That strength comes in different forms. My people value physical power and martial tradition. We assumed that was the only path to being dangerous, but you showed us something else. Thexel looked down at his hands. You're dangerous because you adapt, because you think while you fight, because your world forced you to be creative to survive. Your tactics were good, Jiwoo said honestly. Your formation was solid. In most situations it would have worked, but not against you. Not against any human with proper training. We're built differently. Our reflexes, our endurance, our pain tolerance, all shaped by Earth. Thexel nodded slowly. I've been researching your world since the fight. Class 12 Deathworld. I didn't understand what that meant before, now I do. Everything on Earth is trying to kill everything else, predators, diseases, weather. Even the plants are toxic. Your species survived that. More than survived. You thrived. That's terrifying. It's just home to us. That's what makes it more terrifying. He turned to face her directly. I want to learn from you, if you're willing. I want to understand how humans fight, how they think. Not to defeat you, but to fight alongside you someday. Jiwoo considered this carefully. Trust had to be earned. But she remembered something her father taught her about hunting. The best hunting partners were former rivals who learned respect through competition. We can train together, she said, but I'll learn from you too. Your squad coordination was excellent before you underestimated your opponent. I could use that knowledge. Thexel's expression showed relief and gratitude. He bowed in the Vexian manner. Thank you. I won't waste this opportunity. Over the following weeks, an unexpected friendship developed. Thexel and his squad began training with the human cadets. The sessions were intense and challenging. The Vexians learned human close combat techniques. The humans learned Vexian formation tactics and squad coordination. Other cadets watched these training sessions with interest. Some joined in. A Quellan named Torix asked Jiwoo to teach him human hand-to-hand methods. An Arathi requested lessons in human tactical thinking. Slowly, barriers broke down. The human cadets became integrated into the broader academy culture. Not as curiosities or threats, but as valued members of the community. But not everyone was happy with the changes. One evening, Jiwoo received a message to report to the commandant's office. Admiral Torvin was a legendary figure, a veteran of the Quellan Wars and dozens of other conflicts. His office reflected his long service, filled with commendations and artifacts from various worlds. He studied Jiwoo as she entered. His four eyes blinked in sequence, a Quellan expression of deep thought. Cadet Kim. Your performance has attracted considerable attention. Yes, sir. The Galactic Military Council has been reviewing recordings of your combat assessment. They have questions about human integration protocols. He pulled up multiple screens showing bureaucratic documents. Some members are concerned about whether humans can be trusted in sensitive positions. Others argue that humans should be fast-tracked for special operations. The debate is intense. Jiwoo remained silent, waiting for him to continue. I've submitted my own report, Torvin said. I've recommended expanded human integration programs. Your capabilities are too valuable to waste on political fears. But my report is just one voice among many. What happens now? Now we wait for the politicians to decide what to do about a species they don't understand. His tone carried frustration. In the meantime, you continue your training. You set an example. You prove through actions what humans can contribute to galactic security. I understand, sir. I hope you do. Because whether you wanted it or not, you've become a symbol. Every human in military service will be judged by your standards. That's not fair, but it's reality. Jiwoo left the commandant's office feeling the weight of expectations pressing down. She had only wanted to complete her training and serve. Instead, she had become a representative of her entire species. That night, unable to sleep, she walked through the academy grounds. The training domes were dark, the parade grounds empty. She found herself at the observation deck again, looking out at the alien moons. Daehyun found her there an hour later. Couldn't sleep either? He asked, joining her at the window. Too much thinking. About becoming the most famous cadet in the academy? About what it means for all of us. Jiwoo gestured at the stars beyond the moons. Every human out there is being judged by what I did. That's too much responsibility. Maybe, but you didn't ask for easy. Daehyun smiled slightly. None of us did. We volunteered to represent Earth among the stars. To show the galaxy what humans can do. You just showed them more dramatically than most. I dropped 4 cadets in 8 seconds. That's going to define me forever. No. What defines you is what you do next. The fight showed your capabilities, but how you handle the aftermath shows your character. Jiwoo thought about that. Daehyun was right. She could let the attention control her, or she could use it to build bridges, to show that humans were more than just dangerous. They were allies worth having. She thought about Thexel, who had gone from enemy to friend. She thought about the other cadets who were slowly learning to trust humans. She thought about the possibilities opening up. We need to be better than good. she said finally. The observation gallery held its breath as the combat began. 200 cadets leaned forward in their seats. Instructors activated recording devices to capture every angle. This would be studied for years to come. Thexel's squad moved immediately into their practiced formation. Krell and Lixar flanked wide to the left and right. Vorn and Thexel advanced straight toward Jiwoo. It was textbook assault tactics. Pin the target in a crossfire. Force them to choose which threat to address. Overwhelm with superior numbers. They expected Jiwoo to retreat, to seek cover in the artificial buildings, to try guerrilla tactics and hit-and-run strikes. That was the smart play when outnumbered. Jiwoo did the opposite. She exploded forward in a dead sprint straight at Thexel's position. The speed shocked everyone. In the gallery, cadets gasped. On the combat floor, the Vexians hesitated for a crucial half-second. They had trained against each other, against species from similar gravity wells. They were used to certain speeds, certain capabilities. Humans from a 1-gravity world moved differently in 0.8 gravity. Jiwoo covered 15 meters in under 2 seconds. Her legs, built to push against Earth's crushing weight, launched her forward like a missile. The lighter gravity meant she could run faster, jump higher, change direction with explosive force. Krell was her first target. He was the weakest link in the flanking maneuver, positioned slightly too far from his squadmates. His weapon was still moving into position when Jiwoo reached him. She didn't slow down. She dropped into a slide that took her under his line of fire. Her legs swept out in a motion that had taken years to perfect. The technique required precise timing and force. Krell's knee joint evolved for Vex Prime's lighter gravity, bent the wrong way under the impact. Not breaking thanks to the dome's safety fields, but hyperextending badly enough to send pain signals screaming through his nervous system. He collapsed with a cry of shock. Elapsed time, 2.3 seconds. 1 down. Jiwoo was already moving before Krell hit the ground. Muscle memory took over. Her combat instructors back on Earth had drilled her thousands of times. Speed and aggression in close combat. Never stop moving. Never give your opponent time to think. Vorn had better reflexes than his squad mate. He tracked Jiwoo's movement and fired his weapon. The stun round left the barrel with the electronic whine. Jiwoo wasn't where he aimed. She had read his body language, seen the minute adjustments in his stance that telegraphed his shot. Her hand snapped out and grabbed his weapon arm just below the elbow. Her other hand struck his wrist with enough force to overload his pain receptors. The cracking sound was his bones fracturing despite the protective fields. The fields prevented permanent damage but couldn't eliminate all harm from extreme force. Vorn's weapon clattered to the ground as he gasped in pain. Elapsed time, 4.7 seconds. 2 down. The gallery erupted in confused shouting. Instructors checked their displays to confirm what they were seeing. The timestamps were accurate. The human had dropped 2 trained warriors in under 5 seconds. On the combat floor, Lixar and Thexel finally processed what was happening. Their careful formation had collapsed. Their numerical advantage meant nothing if they couldn't land a hit. They fired simultaneously. 2 stun rounds from different angles. Perfect crossfire. Jiwoo was already moving. She had tracked both their positions throughout the engagement. Her spatial awareness, honed by a childhood spent in 3-dimensional environments, let her calculate trajectories instinctively. She dove forward into a roll. The stun rounds passed through empty air where she had been. She came up behind a piece of artificial rubble and kept moving. Thexel's military training kicked in. Lixar, high position. Cover fire! But Jiwoo heard the command through the dome's acoustics. She adjusted her approach, circling wide to avoid Lixar's line of sight. The Vexian female was climbing a damaged building's framework, trying to gain the high ground. Jiwoo reached the structure first. She leaped. In Earth gravity, the jump would have lifted her maybe a meter off the ground. Here, she soared 3 meters up and grabbed the framework's lower edge. Her arms, strengthened by years of fighting Earth's weight, pulled her up with ease. Lixar saw her coming too late. She tried to shift her weapon around, but the framework was narrow and unstable. She had to choose between keeping her balance and aiming. Jiwoo made the choice for her. She grabbed Lixar's combat vest and pulled hard. The Vexian's balance failed. They both fell from the structure, but Jiwoo controlled the descent. She twisted in midair, putting Lixar beneath her. They hit the ground with Jiwoo's knee driving into Lixar's solar plexus. The impact drove all 3 of Lixar's lungs empty at once. Her respiratory system, Optimized for thinner atmosphere, couldn't recover fast enough. She gasped helplessly, eyes wide with panic. Elapsed time, 7.8 seconds. 3 down. Jiwoo rolled away from Lixar and came to her feet. Across the arena floor, Thexel stood alone. His confident expression had vanished. His 3 squad mates lay on the ground, groaning or gasping. The entire engagement had lasted less than 8 seconds. The gallery was silent now. Every cadet watched with stunned disbelief. Some had their mouths open. Others gripped their seats hard enough to dent the metal. In the front row, Instructor Ralmek's eyes gleamed with fierce satisfaction. Thexel backed up slowly. His hand still held his weapon, but they trembled slightly. He was finally understanding what his species had failed to grasp about Deathworlders. Jiwoo walked toward him. Not running now, not rushing. She had made her point. The predator had revealed itself, and the prey was reconsidering his life choices. You wanted to see what a human could do, she said. Her voice was calm, conversational. Now you know? Thexel raised his weapon. His pride wouldn't let him surrender without resistance. He fired 3 times in quick succession. Desperation made his aim sloppy. Jiwoo slipped the first round by shifting her weight. The second passed close enough to her ear that she felt its wake. The third would have hit her center mass. She caught it. The motion was impossible. The stun round was moving too fast, but Jiwoo's hand was already in position, her timing perfect, her reflexes operating at the peak of human capability. Her fingers closed around the projectile, and the protective field absorbed its kinetic energy into her hand. It hurt. It would probably bruise. But the round didn't hit its target. The gallery exploded with noise. Cadets jumped to their feet. Some were cheering. Others were arguing. A few just stared in blank shock. Jiwoo closed the distance to Thexel in 2 quick steps. His weapon was empty now, firing its full load in panic. He tried to use it as a club, swinging wild. She ducked under the swing, stepped inside his guard, and swept his legs. Thexel went down hard. Jiwoo's knee planted on his chest, her hand positioned at his throat in a killing position that she didn't complete. She just held it there, proving the point. Total combat time, 8.2 seconds. Ralmek's voice boomed through the speakers. Combat concluded. Victory to Cadet Kim. Jiwoo stood up and offered her hand to Thexel. He stared at it for a long moment, breathing hard. Then he took it and let her pull him up. Good match, she said simply. Thexel nodded slowly, unable to speak. Medical teams rushed onto the floor to check the injured Vexians. Their wounds were painful but not permanent. Krell's knee would heal in days. Forn's wrist required a regeneration treatment. Lixar's breathing returned to normal as soon as her lungs refilled, but their pride would take longer to recover. Jiwoo walked out of the dome without looking back. The gallery remained loud with arguing voices. Some cadets insisted she had cheated somehow. Others demanded to see the footage again. A few just sat in stunned silence. In the corridor outside, Daehyun waited with Hana and Minsu. Their faces showed a mixture of relief and amazement. That was insane, Hana whispered. That was necessary, Jiwoo replied. Daehyun smiled widely. 8 seconds. You dropped 4 trained soldiers in 8 seconds. The galaxy is going to lose its mind. Let them. Maybe now they'll stop testing us. Minsu shook his head. Or maybe they'll test us even harder. Jiwoo considered that. He might be right. Humans had just proven they were dangerous. Fear could breed respect or it could breed more fear. Only time would tell which direction the galaxy chose. But for now, in this moment, she had accomplished her goal. She had shown strength. She had ended the harassment. She had proven that Earth's children were not prey. They were predators who had learned to think, and that made them something far more dangerous than any Deathworld had produced before. As she walked back to her quarters, Jiwoo thought about her grandmother's words. Show strength when it matters. The galaxy had seen Earth's strength now. She hoped they were smart enough to recognize it was better to have humans as allies than enemies. The first week passed quickly. Jiwoo fell into a routine that felt comfortable despite being on an alien world. Wake up, exercise, study, train, sleep, repeat. The classes were challenging but not impossible. Galactic military tactics weren't that different from human ones. Both focused on the same basics: know your enemy, use your advantages, adapt to situations. The physical training was almost too easy. Every morning, cadets worked out in the gym. The equipment adjusted to match each species' home gravity. Ji-woo set hers to 1.2 Earth standard, higher than home. She wanted to stay sharp. While other cadets struggled with their weights, she moved through her routine with steady focus. That was when she first noticed them watching. The 4 Vexians always seemed to be nearby. In the gym, they chose equipment with clear views of her station. In the mess hall, they sat 3 tables away. During combat classes, their leader Thexel volunteered for demonstrations against the other humans. Dae-hyun noticed too. "They're sizing us up," he said one evening in their room. Thexel especially. I think we hurt his pride. How? By existing. By being good at this. Dae-hyun stretched out on his bed. Vex Prime produces excellent soldiers. They have a strong military tradition. Then humans show up and perform just as well, sometimes better. That bothers them. Ji-woo thought about that. Pride was dangerous. It made people do stupid things. She had seen it before in training back on Earth. Some students couldn't handle being second best. They either worked harder or tried to tear down whoever was first. She hoped the Vexians would choose to work harder. They didn't. The harassment started small. On her way to class, someone bumped into Ji-woo hard enough to knock her into the wall. She turned but saw only a crowd of cadets walking past. No apologies, no acknowledgement. In the mess hall, her food tray disappeared while she was getting a drink. She returned to an empty table. Across the room, she saw Thexel and his friends laughing. During a navigation class, her datapad mysteriously reset itself, erasing all her notes. The instructor gave her a warning for being unprepared. Dae-hyun faced the same problems. His uniform went missing from the laundry. His locker was broken into, but nothing was stolen. During a simulation, his equipment malfunctioned at a critical moment, causing his team to fail. The other 2 humans had it worse. Hana-sung was a combat medic trainee, small and quiet. Someone sabotaged her medical kit before a practical exam. She failed because her scanner wouldn't work. Min-soo Choi, who specialized in navigation, got locked in a storage bay overnight. He missed 2 classes and received demerits. The pattern was clear. Someone was targeting the human cadets. Ji-woo wanted to report it, but Dae-hyun stopped her. "No proof," he said. "And honestly, the instructors probably know already. This is a test. They want to see how we handle pressure. If we run to them for help, we look weak. So we just take it? We endure it? For now." Dae-hyun's jaw was tight. "Earth didn't raise weak children, Ji-woo. We can handle some bullies." But the harassment escalated. During a zero-gravity training session, someone cut Ji-woo's safety line. She caught herself on a handhold, but the instructor saw nothing wrong. "Equipment failure," he ruled. "These things happen." In the mess hall, Thexel got bolder. He sat at the table next to the humans and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "I don't understand the hype about Deathworlders," he said to his friends. "These humans look soft, weak. I've seen cargo haulers more dangerous." His friend Krell laughed. "Maybe the stories are exaggerated. Maybe Earth isn't really that deadly. Or maybe," another Vexian named Vorn added, "humans are just good at hiding, running, surviving like rats instead of fighting like warriors." Ji-woo kept eating. Dae-hyun's knuckles were white around his fork, but he stayed quiet too. Hana looked down at her plate. Min-soo excused himself and left. Thexel watched them go with satisfaction. He had gotten a reaction. The next day during combat simulations, things got dangerous. The exercise was a simple team assault on a fortified position. Ji-woo was assigned to a mixed squad with 2 Velkrin, a Quellan, and an Arathi. Thexel's squad was playing defense. The simulation used stun rounds, non-lethal but painful. The rules were clear. Aim for center mass, no headshots, cease fire on surrender. Thexel's squad didn't follow the rules. Ji-woo's team advanced under covering fire. She moved from cover to cover, coordinating with her squad. But the defenders were too accurate, too focused. Every time Ji-woo showed herself, multiple stun rounds flew at her position. One round hit her shoulder. The pain was sharp and electric. Her arm went numb. Another round hit her leg. She dropped behind cover, breathing hard. Her squad members weren't getting targeted the same way. The defenders spread fire among them, but Ji-woo received concentrated volleys. Through her scope, she saw Thexel directing his team. He pointed at her position. His friends adjusted their aim. A grenade landed next to her. In training simulations, grenades released a pulse that registered as kills on nearby targets. They weren't supposed to cause actual harm. This one was thrown too close. The pulse hit Jiwoo hard enough to knock her back. Her ears rang. Her vision blurred. The exercise ended with her team's failure. The instructor's voice came over the speakers. Acceptable performance from the defenders. Attackers need better coordination. Jiwoo lay on the ground waiting for the ringing to stop. She heard footsteps approaching. Through blurry vision, she saw Thexel standing over her. Deathworlder couldn't handle a simple training exercise, he said loud enough for others to hear. I expected more from Earth's finest. Jiwoo closed her eyes and focused on breathing. Pain was temporary. Pain was just signals from her body. She had felt worse during training on Earth. This was nothing, but the disrespect burned more than the stun rounds. Daehyun helped her to medical. The doctor, a kind Arathi with silver eyes, scanned her injuries. Minor bruising. Muscle strain. Nothing permanent. You should report this, the doctor said quietly. These injuries are consistent with excessive force. It was just training, Jiwoo said. The doctor didn't look convinced but didn't push. He gave her a pain suppressant and sent her back to her room. That evening, Daehyun sat on his bed unusually quiet. Finally he spoke. We need to be careful. Thexel is building towards something. He wants a confrontation. I know. If it comes to a fight, we need to be smart. Phexians are trained warriors. 4 against 1 would be suicide. Jiwoo didn't respond. She stared at the ceiling and thought about predators. On Earth, predators tested their prey. They looked for weakness, for fear, for the right moment to strike. If the prey ran, the predator chased. If the prey fought back hard enough, the predator looked for easier targets. Thexel was a predator. He had chosen his prey. Now he was testing her, pushing boundaries, waiting for her to run or break. But Jiwoo wasn't prey. She was from Earth. From a world where humans were both predator and prey, where survival meant being smarter, faster, and more ruthless than everything trying to kill you. If Thexel wanted a confrontation, she would give him one, but it would be on her terms, and it would be the last time he underestimated a human. The confrontation came 2 days later during tactical debriefing. The entire cadet class gathered in the main training hall to review combat simulations from the week. Instructors played back footage on massive screens, pointing out mistakes and successes. When Jiwoo's failed assault appeared on screen, the room grew quiet. The footage showed her team's clumsy advance, the concentrated fire on her position, the grenade that landed too close. The instructor, a scarred Velcrin named Ralmek, watched without expression. Cadet Kim, he said, what was your team's primary mistake? Jiwoo stood from her seat. Poor communication, sir. We didn't coordinate our movements effectively. And why didn't you coordinate? Because my squad didn't trust the human. Because they hesitated to follow my suggestions. Because species prejudice matters more than tactics sometimes. We needed more practice working together, sir. Ralmek nodded slowly. He knew the real answer, but she hadn't complained. That counted for something. From across the room, Thexel's voice rang out. Maybe the problem wasn't coordination. Maybe it was the Deathworlder freezing under pressure. Several cadets gasped. Interrupting an instructor was a serious breach of protocol. But Ralmek held up one massive hand, stopping anyone from speaking. You have something to add, Cadet Thexel? The Vexian stood confident and smiling. Only an observation, sir. We've been hearing stories about Earth, about how dangerous it is, how tough the natives are. But I've seen nothing impressive. In fact, I'm starting to think the humans are overrated. Jiwoo felt every eye in the room turn to her. Daehyun tensed in the seat beside her. This was the moment Thexel had been building toward. Public humiliation designed to force a reaction. She kept her face calm. Ralmek's eyes narrowed. This is a debriefing, cadet, not a debate hall. Return to your seat. Of course, sir. I just think it's worth noting. Thexel sat down but wasn't finished. He spoke to his friends in a normal voice that somehow carried through the quiet room. Maybe Earth's reputation comes from humans being good at running, hiding, surviving by avoiding real conflict. Krell laughed. Like scavengers instead of hunters, Vorn added. I could beat any human in single combat. Probably any 2 humans. The 4th member of their group, a female named Lixar, shook her head but smiled. You're being generous. I'd say 4 humans wouldn't be a challenge. The room erupted in murmurs. Some cadets looked shocked at the disrespect. Others seemed curious whether the humans would respond. A few looked eager for entertainment. Jiwoo remained standing. Her heart rate was steady, her breathing calm. She had been insulted before. Words were just air unless you let them become more. But then Thexel made his mistake. Of course, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Deathworlders want to prove themselves. Kim could accept a challenge. 4-on-1. Full contact sparring in the combat dome. He stood again, meeting her eyes across the room. Unless she's too frightened. The trap was perfect. If she refused, she confirmed their insults. The humans were cowards. But if she accepted, she faced impossible odds. 4 trained soldiers against 1. Even suggesting the match was an insult. Dae-hyun grabbed her wrist. His grip was tight, urgent. Don't, he whispered. It's suicide. Ji-woo looked at Instructor Ralmek. The old warrior watched her with curious eyes. He spoke into his communicator, then nodded. Command has authorized the match if Cadet Kim accepts. Full contact sparring. Non-lethal weapons only. 4 against 1 since the challenger seems confident. His voice was neutral, but Ji-woo caught something in his tone. Interest. Maybe even hope. The entire academy wanted to see what a human could do. She pulled her wrist free from Dae-hyun's grip and spoke clearly. I accept. Combat dome. 1 hour. The room exploded with noise. Cadets talking over each other. Some cheering. Some protesting. Thexel's smile widened into something predatory. Good. Try not to disappoint us, Deathworlder. Ralmek banged his fist on the podium. Silence. Debriefing is over. Everyone who wants to observe, report to the combat dome gallery. Everyone else back to your duties. Nobody went back to their duties. Ji-woo walked out of the hall with Dae-hyun close behind. Min-soo and Hana caught up to them in the corridor. Are you insane? Hana asked. Her voice was high with panic. 4 Vexians. Ji-woo, they're going to destroy you. Maybe, Ji-woo said. Maybe. There's no maybe here. This is math. 4 against 1 equals loss. Min-soo shook his head. Can't you withdraw? Say you were provoked? The instructors would understand. And then what? Ji-woo stopped walking and faced them. We spend the rest of our time here being called cowards? Every human who comes after us gets the same treatment. No, this ends now. By you getting beaten unconscious, by showing them exactly what a Deathworlder can do. Dae-hyun studied her face. You have a plan. I have confidence, but that's not the same thing. Ji-woo smiled slightly. My father used to take me hunting in the mountains back home. One time we encountered a group of wild boars. 5 of them, each weighing over 200 kilograms. They saw us as threats to their territory. My father could have retreated. Instead, he charged them, screaming, aggressive, absolutely confident. What happened? Hana asked. They ran. Because predators recognize other predators. They smell fear, but they also smell danger. She started walking again. Thexel thinks I'm prey. He's wrong. They reached the cadet barracks. Ji-woo went to her room and changed into training clothes. Light, flexible, designed for movement. She stretched carefully, warming up her muscles. Through the window, she could see cadets streaming toward the combat dome. Dae-hyun sat on his bed watching her. You're really going to do this? Yes. I won't be able to stop them if they go too far. I know. Ji-woo. He waited until she looked at him. We just got here. We have 8 months of training left. Don't throw it away on pride. This isn't pride. This is necessity. She finished stretching and sat beside him. When I was selected for the academy, my grandmother told me something. She said humans spent millions of years being hunted. We were small, weak compared to the other predators. So we got smart. We made tools. We learned to work together. But most importantly, we learned when to show strength. Because out there in the wild places, weakness gets you killed. This isn't the wild. Everywhere is wild. Every civilization is just a thin layer over chaos. The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we're new. Because we're small. Because our world made us tough but didn't make us big or strong in ways they understand. She stood and headed for the door. Time to educate them. The walk to the combat dome felt long. Cadets lined the pathways watching her pass. Some called out encouragement. Others made jokes about how quickly she would fall. Ji-woo heard none of it. She focused on breathing, on staying loose, on remembering her training. The combat dome loomed ahead. Its massive doors stood open. Inside, she could see Thexel and his 3 friends warming up. They moved with practiced coordination, confident in their abilities and their plan. The observation galleries were packed. Every cadet not on duty had come to watch. Instructors filled the front row, including Ralmek. He caught her eye and nodded once Jiwoo entered the dome. The floor was hard and flat. Walls rose around her, creating an arena 50 meters across. Weapons racks lined the edges, but they were empty. The dome would generate weapons randomly during the fight. Thexel approached with his squad behind him. Up close, he was even more impressive. Tall, muscled, moving with a warrior's grace. His friends were equally formidable. "Last chance to withdraw," he said. "No shame in recognizing your limits." Jiwoo met his eyes. "You should take your own advice." His smile faded slightly. Instructor Ralmek's voice boomed from the speakers. "Combat parameters established. Full contact sparring. Non-lethal weapons will spawn randomly. Protective fields active to prevent permanent injury. Fight continues until surrender or incapacitation. Cadets, take your positions." Jiwoo walked to the center of the dome. Thexel and his squad spread out, surrounding her in a loose formation. Standard pack tactics, the dome's environment shifted. Walls materialized, creating an urban warfare setting. Rubble scattered across the floor. Cover appeared at strategic points. Ralmek's voice echoed again. "All combatants ready, 3, 2, 1. The world slowed down. Jiwoo's senses sharpened. She could hear her heartbeat steady and strong. She could feel the air moving around her. She could see every detail of her opponent's stances. Engage, and then she moved. The transport ship broke through the atmosphere of Sanctuary Prime, and Jiwoo Kim pressed her face against the small window. Below her, the Galactic Military Academy spread across the landscape like a metal flower. Massive training domes dotted the campus. Ships of every design she could imagine sat in orderly rows at the landing pads. Hundreds of buildings connected by covered walkways created a maze of glass and steel. She had traveled for 3 weeks to get here. 3 weeks away from Earth, away from her family, away from everything she knew. Her stomach twisted with nerves, but she kept her face calm. That was the first lesson her father taught her before she left. Never show fear. Never show weakness. Not out here, where humans were still new. The ship touched down with barely a bump. Jiwoo grabbed her single bag and joined the line of cadets moving toward the exit. Most of them towered over her. The Velcrin cadets had to duck through doorways, their gray skin rippling with muscles that came from their high-gravity world. The Quellan had 4 arms each, carrying multiple bags with ease. Even the smaller species looked at her with curious eyes. She walked down the ramp and felt the difference immediately. Sanctuary Prime had lighter gravity than Earth. Her steps felt bouncy, like walking on a trampoline. She would need to adjust her movements or risk looking clumsy. A tall alien with blue skin and 3 eyes stood at the bottom of the ramp. He held a datapad and called out names. When he reached Jiwoo, he paused and looked her up and down. Cadet Kim. From Earth. He said the planet's name carefully, like it might bite him. Follow the yellow line to processing. Your quarters assignment will be provided there. Jiwoo nodded and followed the glowing line on the ground. Around her, other cadets chatted in various languages. The universal translator in her ear converted most of it, but some species spoke too fast or in frequencies she couldn't hear. She caught fragments of conversations. Did you see the human? I heard their world is classified as deadly. My professor said they eat dead animals. Can you imagine? She kept walking and pretended not to hear. Earth was famous in the galaxy, but not in a good way. Class 12 Deathworld, forbidden for colonization. Most species needed environmental suits just to breathe there. The gravity alone would crush the bones of lighter species. And the life? Everything on Earth evolved to survive against predators, diseases, and each other. Humans were the only species from a Class 12 world to achieve space travel. That made them interesting. It also made them scary. Processing took 2 hours. Jiwoo received her uniform, her schedule, her room assignment, and a long list of rules. The processing officer, a Kellan with silver markings on her arms, seemed kind enough. You have a roommate, she said. Another human. We thought it best to pair species together during the adjustment period. Jiwoo found her room on the 3rd floor of the cadet barracks. The door slid open to reveal a space twice the size of her room back home. 2 beds, 2 desks, 2 storage lockers. One side was already claimed with personal items scattered across the desk. A young man looked up from unpacking. He had the same dark hair and eyes as Jiwoo. His smile was genuine and relieved. Thank the stars, he said in Korean. I'm Daehyun Park, Seoul Station originally. You? Jiwoo Kim, Busan. She set her bag on the empty bed. You've been here long? 3 days. Long enough to know we're not exactly popular. Daehyun sat on his bed and gestured for her to sit too. There are only 4 humans in our class. 200 cadets total. We stand out. That's not necessarily bad. It's not good either. Daehyun's smile faded. Look, I'm not trying to scare you, but some of the other cadets have been testing boundaries. Nothing serious yet, just comments, bumping into us in hallways, watching us during training. They're curious, but some of them are also threatened. Jiwoo understood. Humans were unknowns. The galaxy had thousands of species, but they all knew each other's capabilities. Earth had only joined the galactic community 20 years ago. Human soldiers were still rare. That meant every human cadet here represented their entire species. No pressure. She unpacked her things while Daehyun explained the academy's schedule. Morning physical training at 0600. Classes until 1400. Combat training and simulations until 1800. Evening free time, then lights out at 2200. 6 days a week for 8 months. Tomorrow is your first assessment, Daehyun said. Basic combat evaluation. They want to see what you can do. What was yours like? Honestly? Easy, too easy. They calibrated it for sanctuary prime gravity, which is 0.8 Earth standard. I felt like I was bouncing around. Finished in half the expected time. He laughed. You should have seen their faces. They didn't know what to make of it. That night, Jiwoo lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. Through the window, she could see 3 moons hanging in the sky. Not home, not even close. But this was her choice. Earth needed representatives in the galactic military. Her test scores had been high enough. Her family had been proud. She thought about what Daehyun said. About being watched. About being tested. It made sense. If she was them, she would watch the humans too. Better to understand a potential threat before it becomes an actual problem. The next morning came fast. Jiwoo dressed in her training uniform and followed Daehyun to the assessment arena. The massive dome could simulate any environment. Today it was set up as an obstacle course with combat scenarios mixed in. 40 cadets stood in formation, waiting for instructions. Jiwoo noticed the stairs immediately. A group of 4 cadets in the back corner watched her with particular interest. They were Vexians, Daehyun whispered, from a mid-gravity world. Good soldiers, proud warriors. Their leader was a male with bronze skin and sharp features. He crossed his arms and said something to his friends. They all laughed. The instructor, a massive Velcrin with scars across his face, called for attention. Cadets! Today's assessment is simple. Complete the course. Neutralize the targets. Don't die. He gestured to the dome. The course adjusts to your species' capabilities. No excuses. Begin when ready. One by one, cadets entered the dome. Jiwoo watched and learned. The Velcrin were strong but slow. The Quellan were versatile with their multiple arms. The Arathi used some kind of mental powers to predict obstacles. Her turn came. She stepped into the dome and the environment shifted. Walls rose from the floor. Targets appeared. The gravity didn't change, though. Still 0.8 standard. The buzzer sounded. Jiwoo moved. Her body felt light, responsive. She jumped higher than she ever could on Earth. She ran faster. The obstacles that challenged other cadets felt simple. The targets fell quickly to her simulated weapon. She finished in 6 minutes. The previous best time was 10. When she exited the dome, the arena was silent. The instructor checked his data pad 3 times. The other cadets stared. In the back corner, the Vexian leader wasn't laughing anymore. His eyes were narrow and calculating. Daehyun gave her a small nod. That look said everything. You just painted a target on your back. Jiwoo understood. She had tried not to show off. But sometimes just being yourself was enough to make enemies.